She thought she was just a waitress, until the black billionaire showed her a photo from her past. The moment Maya turned around, the tray of glasses trembling slightly in her hands, she locked eyes with the man in the corner booth and froze. Not because he was famous. She didn't even recognize him at first. It was the way he looked at her, not like a customer looks at a waitress, but like he knew her, like he had been searching for her. Then he pulled out a worn photograph from the inner pocket of his charcoal blazer and placed it on the table. Maya's breath hitched, because in that photograph, faded and bent at the corners, was a little girl. About 5 or 6, standing barefoot in a cracked backyard, holding a paper flower and beaming. And next to her was Maya's mother. Her knees almost buckled. "What? Where did you get that?" she whispered, placing the tray down with trembling hands. The man stood slowly. His dark skin gleamed under the dim restaurant lights. He was tall, easily 6'3", with a calm strength in his posture and an air that didn't need to demand respect. It came naturally. "My name is Carter Maddox," he said, his voice deep but gentle. "And I believe we've met before, Maya. A long time ago." She blinked, stepping back. No one called her by her real name at the diner. Her name tag said Marie. The owner insisted it sounded more approachable. Her mouth dried. "I don't understand." Carter studied her. "You were adopted, but not before you spent the first 7 years of your life in foster care. Before that, you were with your birth mother, Rosa Brooks." "That's her in the picture, isn't it?" Maya staggered back another step. "How do you know my mother's name?" Because Maya had never told anyone here about Rosa. She didn't even talk about it to her roommate, let alone a stranger in a suit who looked like he stepped out of a business magazine. Carter's face shifted slightly, like he could see the swirl of panic rising in her. "I'm not here to hurt you, but you're part of something much bigger than you know." Before Maya could speak, her manager, Greg, stormed over. "Is there a problem here?" Carter gave a tight smile, returning to his seat. "None at all. Just talking." Greg glared at Maya. "Get back to work." Carter didn't break eye contact with her. "I'll be here all night. If you want the truth, come back." Maya spent the next 3 hours moving through the motions, but nothing felt real. Not the chatter from the booths, not the sizzle from the kitchen, just Carter's voice repeating in her mind. "You're part of something much bigger." By closing time, the diner had thinned out. Carter was still there. Same booth. Same calm expression. She hesitated, heart pounding, then slid into the seat across from him. "You need to explain everything." Carter reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick manila folder. Inside were court documents, social service records, a hand-drawn birthday card, signed Maya in a shaky, childish scrawl. "I've been searching for your mother for over 20 years, he began. "She was the only person who ever helped me when I was a runaway, gave me shelter, fed me. Protected me. She saved my life." Maya's throat tightened. "She was like a sister to me." We lost touch. I searched for her after I made my first million, but it was like she'd vanished. Then, 2 weeks ago, someone from my legal team found this photo in a storage unit in Detroit. With a file that had her name, and yours. Maya's hands gripped the edge of the table. "My mother, she died. I was 6. She was taken from me in a car accident. At least that's what my file said." Carter nodded slowly. "Yes. But I don't think it was an accident." The air shifted. "What?" "There are too many loose ends. No official police report." The shelter she was staying at was suddenly shut down. Records erased. And the file we found. Someone tried to destroy it. Maya stared at him. "Why would anyone do that?" because she was protecting something, or someone. You think that's me? I know it's you. The silence between them pulsed. Then Carter leaned in. Do you remember anything strange from that time? Flashes. A man yelling. Her mother pulling her into a closet. Whispers about documents. Then nothing. She whispered, just fragments. Carter slid over another document. It was a copy of a photograph. Her mother standing beside a woman in a lab coat. The words on the back, Project Haven. 1994. What is this? Carter's jaw tightened. That's what I need to find out. But I can't do it without you. Before Maya could respond, the bell above the diner door jingled. 2 men in black coats entered. They didn't look like customers. Carter's eyes flicked to them and his whole demeanor changed. He stood slowly. We need to leave, now. Maya's voice dropped. What's going on? I think someone knows you're remembering. The men walked past them, eyeing Carter closely, then took a seat near the counter. Carter slid a small flash drive across the table. Everything I've found is on there. If anything happens to me, go to this address. He scribbled it down on a napkin. Ask for Natalie Green. Maya was shaking. What is this? Who are you? Carter met her gaze, something fiery and unflinching in his voice now. I'm the only one who can help you find out who you really are. And with that, he stood, nodded once, and walked straight past the 2 men, disappearing into the cold New York night. Maya sat frozen in the booth, the flash drive in her hand burning hotter than anything she'd ever held. For 23 years, she thought she was just a waitress, but nothing about her life was simple anymore, and everything she thought she knew was about to be shattered. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat on her couch, wrapped in a worn blanket, the flash drive Carter had given her clutched tightly in her palm like a relic. Her old laptop whirred loudly as it opened the folder titled Haven. There were dozens of files. Photos, scans of documents, surveillance reports. One video file labeled Rosa Brooks' Final Statement. She hesitated before clicking play. The screen flickered. Then came the image of a woman, her mother. Younger than Maya remembered, but unmistakably Rosa. Her hair was shorter, her eyes tired, wary, but burning with quiet urgency. If you're watching this, Rosa said into the camera, then I probably didn't make it. Maya's breath caught. I tried to hide the truth for as long as I could. I thought I could run, but they always find you. Project Haven wasn't about helping women. It was an experiment, funded by people who should have known better. They used us, lied to us, and when I found out the truth, I had to run. For Maya, for my daughter. The screen glitched, and Rosa's voice grew desperate. They want her. They don't care about the cost. But Maya, baby, if you're watching this, trust no one. Except him, Carter Maddox. He owes me. He'll protect you. The video ended. Maya sat frozen, fingers trembling against the laptop keys. Her stomach turned as the weight of her mother's words sank in. Her entire childhood, the system, the lies, the accident, none of it was random. Someone had been pulling strings, and Carter wasn't just some wealthy stranger who wandered into her diner. He was part of the last promise her mother had made. But now she had to know more. She left her apartment as the sun began to rise, walking the 5 blocks to the address Carter had scrawled on the napkin, a tall grey stone building tucked between 2 art galleries in Soho. She buzzed the intercom. A voice came through. Calm. Measured. Who is it? My name is Maya Brooks. Carter Maddox told me to come here. Said to ask for Natalie Green. Silence. Then a click. The heavy door unlocked. Inside, a woman in her late 40s waited by the elevator. Sharp features, short blonde hair, and eyes that scanned Maya like a scanner running facial recognition. "You're her," Natalie said quietly. "Come in." The elevator took them to the 6th floor, into a sunlit office filled with files, computers, and satellite maps. It didn't look like a lawyer's office. It looked like a war room. Natalie motioned for her to sit. "I worked with your mother," she said. "Back then I was just an intern at the firm that handled the legal paperwork for Project Haven. I didn't realize what they were doing until it was too late. Rosa got out. Most didn't." "What was Haven?" Maya asked. Natalie pulled out a thick file and dropped it on the desk. It was supposed to be a protection initiative for low-income mothers, funded by private donors and government grants. But it turned into something else. Medical trials, behavioral manipulation. Eugenics. Maya recoiled. "That's illegal." Natalie gave a dry laugh. "Not if no one's watching." "And if they make the data disappear?" Maya shook her head. "Why me? Why would they care about a waitress?" "Because you're the last surviving child from the program." That stopped her cold. "They tried to track down every mother and child. Some vanished, some were accidents. But Rosa, she hid you well. Changed your name, moved across 3 states, and she did it all while dodging federal-level surveillance." "Why didn't anyone stop them?" Maya whispered. "They had friends in high places. Still do. Which is why Carter has been walking a thin line helping you." Maya's voice broke. "Where is he?" Natalie hesitated. "We lost contact last night." "What?" "He had eyes on him when he left the diner. Our team tried to intercept, but he ditched his tracker." He knew they were close. A cold panic started crawling up Maya's spine. "You think they took him?" "We don't know, but if they did, it's because he has information." "And if they know you're with us now, you're in danger." The room spun. Everything was too fast, too big. Maya had always thought of herself as average, unremarkable, a girl who didn't finish college, who worked double shifts and paid rent late. Now she was the key to uncovering a decades-old conspiracy. Natalie handed her a phone. "Encrypted." "You'll need it." "I'm not a spy," Maya said weakly. "You're not. You're a survivor." "And if you want answers, you'll need to fight for them." Before she could respond, a sharp alarm blared from the hallway. "Intrusion on the 1st floor," a voice crackled from the speaker. Natalie's eyes snapped to Maya. "We have to go. Now." They raced down a side stairwell and exited through a back alley into a waiting black SUV. As they sped through Soho, Maya looked out the window, her thoughts spiraling. Carter was missing. Her mother had died protecting her from people still pulling strings today. And the truth wasn't just buried, it was guarded. Natalie handed her a small black case. "What is this?" Maya asked. "Your mother left something for you." "Carter was supposed to give it to you once you were ready." Maya opened it. Inside was a bracelet, handmade, faded, but instantly familiar. Her mother's. And inside the band, stitched in thread, was a single word. "Hold." She ran her fingers over it. "Hold on! Hold the line! Hold your ground!" A memory hit her like a wave, her mother whispering it in the dark during one of the nights they were hiding. "No matter what they say, baby girl, you hold." The SUV took a hard turn. Natalie's voice dropped. "They're not going to stop coming, so now you have a choice, Maya. You can run again, or we expose every last one of them." Maya didn't hesitate this time. She closed the case, looked Natalie dead in the eye and said, "Let's burn it all down." The rain started just as the SUV pulled up to a discreet brownstone on the outskirts of Brooklyn. Maya stepped out into the drizzle, clutching the black case like a shield. She followed Natalie inside quickly, nerves coiling tighter with every step. The interior was dim, Spartan. No pictures, no personal touches. Just tech, screens, surveillance maps. Files stacked in coded order. "This is one of our fallback sites," Natalie explained, locking 3 different latches behind them. "It's not in any known system." Not even Carter knew about it. Why the secrecy? Because we're not just hiding from a corrupt project, Maya. We're up against an entire network. People in law enforcement, the judiciary, medicine. Carter suspected a leak inside his own legal firm. We had to build a parallel operation. Maya sat down heavily on a bench near the wall, soaked through and shaking. She had so many questions, but one pressed hardest. Why didn't anyone stop this sooner? Natalie looked at her long and hard before answering. Because people like us don't have the power to stop them. We only have the power to survive. And if we're lucky, to expose. Before Maya could reply, a sharp chime echoed from one of the wall monitors. A woman's face appeared on the screen. Brown skin. Buzzed haircut, black turtleneck, calm but intense eyes. "Agent Parker," Natalie said. "Maddox resurfaced," the woman reported. "We caught a flash of him in surveillance near 72nd Street Station." He looked injured, limping, but not alone. Maya's heart jumped. "He's alive?" "For now, but he's being followed, not by us." "I'm guessing rogue contractors hired to clean up loose ends." "Where is he now?" Maya demanded. "He disappeared down a side alley. Then the feed cut." Natalie swore under her breath. "They're jamming the cameras. I've got one of our runners en route, but Maya, if you want to find him first, we'll need to move fast." Maya stood up. "I'm going with you." Natalie opened her mouth to argue, then caught the fire in Maya's eyes and simply nodded. 20 minutes later, Maya was in a black hoodie and jeans, moving through the subway corridors near 72nd Street. Her eyes scanned every passerby, every turn of a camera, every glance that lingered too long. Her phone buzzed. "Unknown number. You're being watched. 3rd stairwell on the left. Now." Natalie whispered in her earpiece. "Ignore it. Could be a trap." But Maya had a gut instinct, one honed not by training, but by survival. "I'm going." She moved quickly, dodging between 2 tourists with luggage, ducking into the stairwell. At first, there was nothing, just flickering lights and a musty smell. Then she saw him. Carter. He was leaning against the wall, one arm clutched to his ribs, a smear of dried blood along his temple. He looked up as she approached, a flicker of disbelief in his eyes. "Maya," he rasped. "You're supposed to be smarter than this," she said, voice cracking as she crouched beside him. He gave a tired half smile. "Guess I underestimated how much they wanted to erase me." "Who's after you?" Carter grimaced. "Not who."
"What? The people who ran Haven, they never dismantled it. They renamed it."
"Privatized it. It's now run under a biotech front, Ardenix Labs, and they're still experimenting." Maya's stomach dropped. "How do you know?" "I broke into one of their research hubs, pulled files, names." "They're targeting children now, foster kids. No one asks questions when they go missing." Suddenly, Maya heard footsteps above. "Quick, heavy, armed." "We have to move," she hissed, but Carter didn't get up. "My leg's hit." "I won't slow you down. I'm not leaving you." He grabbed her wrist. "Then take this. It's everything I found." He pressed a slim drive into her palm, identical to the one from before. Maya stared at him. "This better not be a goodbye," a voice shouted from above. Flashlight beams swept the stairwell. Carter groaned and slumped. "They can't catch both of us," A gun cocked. Maya spun. But before she could think, a flash of light exploded from the bottom of the stairwell, followed by smoke. A tall figure in a gas mask emerged, grabbed Carter's arm and nodded at Maya. "Move!" It was Agent Parker. They stormed through a hidden door in the wall, down another passage, and up into the street through a manhole near the corner of Columbus Avenue. The moment they surfaced, the adrenaline hit her like a flood. Carter was alive. But barely. Back in the van, as Parker applied pressure to his wound, Maya clutched the second drive like a lifeline. Natalie's voice crackled through the radio. "What did you find?" Maya answered softly, eyes blazing. "Proof. And names." Parker looked over. "Once we release this, there's no going back." Maya didn't hesitate. "Good. I'm done hiding." But in the quiet hum of the van, no one noticed that someone else was watching. A tiny tracker embedded in Carter's belt pulsed faintly, activated by the blood loss, broadcasting a signal. They weren't safe yet. The real game had just begun. The safe house was darker now, its dim emergency lights casting long, flickering shadows across the concrete floor. Maya sat near Carter's cot, the faint beep of a portable heart monitor pulsing in sync with the tension in the air. Agent Parker stood guard by the reinforced steel door, fingers twitching near her holster. Natalie paced the room, phone to her ear, her voice low and sharp. She ended the call and looked at Maya with an urgency that burned. "They've activated a kill protocol." Maya blinked. "What does that even mean?" "It means that Ardenix has moved beyond damage control. They're not just hunting Carter. They're scrubbing the whole operation, witnesses, documents. Even digital backups. Whatever's on that drive, it's a death sentence." Parker finished grimly. Maya stood. Her body ached, her head spun, but her mind had never been clearer. "Then we leak it. All of it." "The names, the locations, everything." Natalie hesitated. "If we do that without proof of ongoing experiments, they'll spin it. Say it was a rogue operation, long shut down. Carter's word alone isn't enough." "I'm not just leaking words," Maya said. "I'm going to Ardenix." Parker and Natalie stared at her like she'd grown a second head. "You're not serious," Parker said. "That facility is locked down tighter than the Pentagon." "I worked there," Maya said, surprising even herself with how steady she sounded. "Before all this, I cleaned their damn break rooms. I know the air vents, the access paths, the rhythms of security. If they're still experimenting, I'll get it on camera." Carter stirred weakly, opening one bloodshot eye. "Maya, don't. You don't owe this fight." "I owe it to the kids," she whispered. "To the people who didn't survive." Natalie walked over and pressed a palm against her shoulder. "If we do this, there's no guarantee you make it out." Maya met her gaze. "There was never a guarantee I'd make it out of the diner either." Within hours, the plan was in motion. Natalie pulled strings to retrieve an old Ardenix uniform. Parker wired a miniature body cam into Maya's lapel, and Carter, barely conscious, gave her the passphrase to bypass the biometric scanner he'd once tricked. "Echo Delta 7, he murmured. "Takes you into Sublevel 3. "What's on Sublevel 3? He winced. "Human testing. The part no one ever talks about." They dropped Maya off a few blocks from Ardenix under the cover of dusk. From the outside, the building looked like any clean corporate lab, a glass box of innovation, polished to perfection. But as she approached, her hands started to sweat, not from fear, from memory. She remembered pushing trash bins through these halls, overhearing murmurs about response rates and neurological compliance. Once, she'd caught sight of a child behind a glass wall, eyes vacant, hands trembling, and no one ever looked back. Now, Maya was back, but not as a cleaner. as a reckoning. She slid her ID badge, swapped earlier by Natalie, through the main access panel. The green light blinked. Access granted. She moved swiftly, head down, mimicking the quiet submission of her former self. She passed researchers in lab coats, some of whom gave her barely a glance. In her earpiece, Parker's voice stayed low. Security camera blind spot ahead. Turn left. Maya followed the cue, slipping into a maintenance corridor that ran parallel to the main labs. At the end was a biometric scanner. Echo! Delta! 7, she whispered. A hiss. The lock disengaged. She pushed the door open and descended. Sublevel 3 was colder. Sterile. Wrong. Rows of holding cells lined the walls. Inside were teenagers, maybe younger. Some slept, some twitched. All wore white hospital gowns. She gasped. This wasn't some past experiment, this was active. She moved quickly, filming everything. Medical tags, test setups. Faces. Suddenly, a scream tore through the corridor. One of the boys, barely 10, was strapped to a gurney, his limbs bound tight. A technician held a syringe filled with a glowing serum. No, Maya breathed, stepping forward instinctively. The tech looked up, confused by her presence. Who are you? Maya didn't think. She shoved the cart toward him, knocking the syringe from his hand, then pulled the boy free. Alarms exploded. They've made you, Parker hissed in her ear. Get out! I'm not leaving him, Maya said, lifting the boy into her arms. She ran, weaving past startled researchers, the boy clinging to her neck. A security guard stepped into her path, gun raised. Then a loud crash. Natalie's SUV burst through the emergency exit gates. Parker leaned out, firing a stun round into the guard's chest. Move, Maya! She lunged forward, ducked into the car, and they sped off as sirens echoed behind them. Back at the safe house, Carter was awake enough to sit up. When he saw the footage Maya captured, his hands trembled. You got it, he said. You actually got it. Maya looked down at the boy sleeping in the cot beside Carter. We got him too. Natalie uploaded the footage to an encrypted site, while Parker called a trusted contact at a major network. This goes public in 30 minutes, Natalie said. And when it does, they can't hide anymore. But just as hope sparked in Maya's chest, Carter turned pale. They'll come harder now, he said. They won't just go after the lab. They'll go after everyone involved. Maya straightened her back. Then let them come. This time, we're not alone. But outside, in a dark corner of Manhattan, a black vehicle sat idling. Inside it, a familiar face watched Maya through grainy drone footage. It was Dr. Helen Cross, the real mind behind Ardenix. She smiled coldly. So, the waitress has teeth. She turned to her assistant. Prepare the final protocol. We erase them all. Maya stared at the old flash drive like it might bite her. The label on it had worn off, but Carter's trembling hand had placed it in hers like a sacred relic. They were holed up in a safe house just outside Brooklyn. The walls thin, the air dry, but everything felt heavier than it should have. Maya hadn't spoken since he handed it to her. It's all in there, Carter said hoarsely. Patient files, test videos, the ledger with names, even the off-book investors. Natalie turned away from the laptop she'd been working on. We need to decrypt it. I'll start running it through a secure, air-gapped system. Carter shook his head. You do that, and they'll pick up the energy signature in hours. They've got trackers on most of the drives. So you gave me a landmine, Maya said, her voice thin with tension. He gave her a weak smile. No, I gave you the truth. Maya stood abruptly and crossed the room, needing distance, needing air. She opened a small window, but it barely moved. The city outside was quiet, but she felt the storm building. Parker stepped in from the kitchen, holding a steaming mug. "You okay?" "I'm supposed to be," Maya muttered. "But I feel like I've been dropped in the middle of a war I didn't ask for." Parker gave her the mug. "No one asks for war. It just finds the people who can't ignore injustice." Maya took the cup and sat, her eyes still on the flash drive. "So what do we do now?" "We confirm it's legit," Natalie said. "Then we bring it to someone who can't be bought." "Senator Delgado. She's been chasing the Ardenix rumors for years, but no one's ever given her hard proof." Carter's eyes fluttered. "Delgado's clean. But if we go to her, they'll know where to look." "We'll cross that bridge," Parker said. But they didn't have to wait long. The bridge came to them. At 3 a.m., a sharp knock on the door sent adrenaline through all three women. Natalie pulled her gun. Parker flanked the window. "Wait," Maya said. "Let me." She approached slowly, peeking through the peephole. A teenage boy stood on the porch, shivering, clutching a plastic bag. His face was bruised, lip cracked. "Who is it?" Parker whispered. Maya opened the door just enough to speak. "Can I help you?" "You, Maya?" She stiffened. "Who's asking?" "My name's Leo. I was part of it." "Ardenix. They called me Subject 34. That got Natalie's attention. She motioned him inside fast and locked the door. He collapsed on the floor the second he crossed the threshold. "I escaped 2 nights ago. I've been running since." "They killed the others. I saw them burn the files, but I took this." From his plastic bag, he pulled a second flash drive, this one marked with a red triangle. Maya stared. "There were more of you?" she asked gently. Leo nodded, tears threatening. "They said we were defective, but I wasn't. I remember everything." "The injections, the electrodes, the room with mirrors." Carter, now sitting upright, rasped. "Red triangle. That's the neural compliance program." Natalie stood frozen. "I thought that was a myth." "It's real," Leo whispered. "They're not just testing on us. They're programming us. Obedience. Wiping memories. Making us into something empty." The room fell deathly still. Parker knelt in front of him. "How did you find Maya?" Leo looked at her like it was obvious. "He showed me." "He?" Leo reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled photo. Maya took it and her breath caught. It was a picture of her, much younger, holding a toddler with tight curls and wide brown eyes. "That's me," Leo said. "You used to sing to me in the hall, behind the glass." Maya sat down hard. "I remember your voice." Tears burned her eyes. "I thought they moved you. That's what they told me." "They lied," he said simply. "You were the only one who smiled at us." The flash drives were now on the table. One from Carter, one from Leo, both pieces of a horrifying puzzle. Natalie stood. "We don't have time. We split." "Maya, you and Leo go to Delgado's private office in D.C. I'll stay here and stage a diversion. Parker, you're with me." Carter shook his head. "That's suicide." Natalie smiled thinly. "We need them to think the files are still here. Otherwise, they'll track Maya before she even gets out of New York." Parker grabbed a duffel bag and zipped it shut. "We've got decoys and burner phones. Let's give them something to chase." Maya hesitated. "Are you sure?" Natalie pulled her into a tight hug. "If you don't get those drives to Delgado, all of this dies in the dark." Hours later, as the sun rose over the highway to D.C., Maya drove a rented car with Leo fast asleep in the back seat, clutching the photo like a lifeline. Her phone buzzed once. A single message from Natalie. They boarded. Run fast. Maya whispered to herself. We're not running. We're delivering justice. But what she didn't see was the black SUV half a mile behind them, tracking their every move. And inside it, a masked man smiled as he opened a live video stream from a hidden camera inside their car. They're bringing it right to us, he muttered. Then he activated the GPS relay and set the trap. The moment Maya and Leo crossed into DC, the air felt heavier, not just from the thick humidity clinging to their skin, but from the silent knowledge that something was about to shift. That weight hadn't left Maya's chest since they left Brooklyn, and Leo, he hadn't said a word since waking up. He just kept staring at the photo of a younger Maya holding him as a baby. They pulled into a parking structure beneath a government building with tinted windows and extra security cameras. Maya reached into her glove compartment, pulled out a forged ID badge, and clipped it to her collar. You ready? She asked, glancing at Leo. He nodded slowly, but his hands trembled. They exited the car and approached the elevator at the far end. Maya punched in a code. The doors slid open. I thought you said this place was safe, Leo murmured, eyes darting nervously. I said it was quiet, Maya replied. There's a difference. The elevator took them to the 12th floor, where Senator Eva Delgado kept her off-the-books office. No signage, just a steel door and a keypad. Maya entered the code Natalie had sent. 1984. Orwell's warning. The door unlocked with a soft click. Delgado was waiting. Tall, Latina, early 50s with silver strands streaked through jet black hair, pulled into a tight chignon. She wore a navy blazer and didn't smile. You brought company, she said. This is Leo, Maya replied. He's the reason we're here. Delgado nodded once and motioned them in. The office was sparse, just a large desk, a few secure filing cabinets, and a wall lined with encrypted servers. Maya handed her the 2 flash drives. Delgado slipped on gloves and inserted the first. Within seconds, the screens lit up with raw footage. Children in white rooms, medical procedures, biometric scans, whispered voices. Leo flinched. That's it. That's the room. Delgado turned slowly, her face unreadable. Jesus Christ, this is real. You thought we were exaggerating? Maya asked, her voice sharp. I thought it was speculation, whispers, not this. Delgado turned to the second flash drive, the one Leo had brought. And everything changed. On screen, a list of names appeared. Powerful ones. Senators, CEOs, department heads. Even 2 Supreme Court justices. Delgado's face went white. This could tear the government apart. It should, Maya said. Suddenly the screen blinked. A red prompt appeared. Trace initiated. External access detected. Maya froze. Shut it down. Delgado yanked the drives out, but it was too late. A second later, the fire alarm blared. What did you do? Leo asked, panic rising. Nothing, Maya snapped. This wasn't us. Delgado moved to her wall panel and pressed an intercom. Secure lockdown! Code black! Silence. Then the building lights flickered. Maya moved fast. We need to go, now! Delgado opened a side panel behind a bookshelf, revealing a narrow escape shaft. This leads to the alley. It's how I get around when I don't want to be seen. Leo hesitated. You trust me, right? Maya asked him. He nodded, and they disappeared into the shaft. They emerged in a trash-littered alley as black SUVs sped toward the front entrance. Men in dark tactical gear stormed the building. Not police, not FBI. They're early, Maya muttered. How did they know? Leo asked. Maya pulled out her phone, checked for signals. Someone's been watching us. And then it clicked. Natalie, she whispered. What? She stayed behind to draw them off. But if they're here, then either she's been captured, or worse. Just then, Maya's burner phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. You're not as invisible as you think, a male voice said. Turn yourself in. Bring the boy. We'll forget the rest. Maya didn't answer. She simply crushed the phone beneath her heel. Come on, she told Leo. We need to find someone who's not already owned. That someone turned out to be Peter Langston, a veteran investigative journalist with nothing to lose and a long history of exposing high-level corruption. They found him inside a coffee shop off 14th Street, writing notes in the margins of a newspaper. He looked up when Maya approached. I was wondering when you'd show up, he said dryly. Been hearing whispers about you. Maya slid into the booth. You're going to want to see this. She handed him a copy of the Red Triangle Drive. He plugged it into a private device and scanned through just enough to pale visibly. Sweet mercy, he whispered. If this is real... It is, Maya interrupted. And we need it to go public. Fast. He shook his head. This isn't something I can leak in an article. This has to go global. We're talking whistleblower-level press conference. Testimony. Documents. Photos. And even then, they'll still come for you. I don't care anymore, Maya said. Let them come. Leo's voice broke through quietly. I just want them to stop hurting kids like me. Langston looked at the boy, and then he nodded. I'll set it up. 3 hours later, Langston's studio was live-streaming a press conference to over 1 million viewers. Maya stood at the podium, Leo beside her, as Delgado confirmed the validity of the drives and named the key conspirators. The nation exploded. Within minutes, hashtags trended. Networks cut into regular programming. Protesters gathered. Anonymous sources came forward. And the walls of Ardenix began to crumble. But Maya knew it wasn't over. She also knew exactly who was still watching. And what he'd do next. Because as Maya left the building through a back door, her eyes locked onto a black car parked across the street. Inside, a familiar man in a grey suit stared back. The same man who had taken Leo from her life all those years ago. Her voice was barely a whisper. Director Wells. And he smiled. Cold, calculated, letting her know this war had only just begun. The hotel room on the outskirts of Baltimore was bare, except for 2 chairs, a queen-size bed, and the constant ticking of a cheap analog clock. Maya stood by the window, blinds cracked just enough to catch the flicker of headlights on the highway. Leo was curled up in the corner with a blanket around his shoulders, barely speaking since the press conference. She could feel the storm coming. They'd gone public, and the world was watching, but the enemy hadn't flinched. If anything, it had recalibrated. I thought this would change everything, Leo muttered without looking up. But they're still out there. It did change things, Maya said quietly. Just not all at once. There was a knock at the door. 3 quick taps, a pause, then one more. Langston. She opened it, gun drawn, but lowered the second she saw his weathered face. He stepped inside, drenched in rain. I got something, he said, tossing a flash drive onto the table. You're not gonna like it. Maya plugged it into her laptop. What came up made her blood run cold. A live video feed, a white-walled holding room. In the center, Natalie. Bruised, tied to a chair, and pacing behind her, calm as a metronome, was Director Wells. I told you, Langston said. They didn't just let that press conference slide. Leo sat up, eyes wide. They have Natalie? Maya's jaw clenched. Where is this feed from? Satellite bounce, Langston explained. Encrypted signal from a facility somewhere near Quantico. Deep black. No official records, but I got a whisper from someone inside. It's an off-the-books NSA site used for rendition and containment of domestic threats. She's bait, Maya realized. They want me to come get her. Of course they do, Langston said. And you're not supposed to survive it. Leo stood up. So what are we going to do? She looked at him. We're going to flip the script. They left the hotel before dawn. Maya didn't need Langston's help for this part. She had her own contacts, ghosts who owed her favors, soldiers turned shadows. One of them, a former NSA tech named Denise, secured the site's layout and patrol schedules. Another, a combat vet named Briggs, handed Maya a bag of gear with a nod. No words exchanged. Just loyalty. At 2:17 a.m., Maya, dressed in black tactical gear, crouched at the edge of a wooded clearing. Through night vision goggles, she watched guards patrol the perimeter fence of the off-the-books site. Leo stayed behind in the getaway car, under Langston's protection. You're sure you don't want backup? Langston had asked her earlier. If I don't come back, drive to the station and air everything. All of it. Every last file. Expose every name. Don't wait. Now, Maya moved like smoke. Avoiding motion sensors, bypassing the gate. She was in. Inside, the halls were sterile and silent. No signage. No numbers. Just corridors that all looked the same. But she knew where they'd keep someone like Natalie. Deep in the center, where the walls were thickest and screams wouldn't carry. She found the control room first. Knocked out the operator. Reversed the locks on the holding cells. Then she slipped into the surveillance wing and accessed the mainframe. But what she saw next made her stomach twist. There wasn't just one prisoner. There were dozens. Young men, women, even teens. All locked in soundproofed rooms, some unconscious, some pacing like caged animals. And each room had a file. Each file had a code name. Subject L, Subject R, Subject V. She clicked on one. Subject M. Maya's breath caught. It was her. Video clips played. Surveillance of her movements, conversations, her time at the diner, even old footage from the shelter she once worked at. They were watching me before I even knew Leo was alive, she whispered. A noise outside the door snapped her back to the moment. Footsteps. She moved fast, locking the door behind her, deleting the system logs, and triggering a false fire alarm. It worked. As red lights strobed and sirens blared, guards scattered. Maya used the confusion to reach Natalie's holding cell. She burst in. Natalie looked up, blood dried at her temple. Took you long enough. Maya smiled despite the tension. You look like hell. Feel like it too. She cut her loose. But Natalie, ever the strategist, nodded toward the control room. They're keeping files. Photos, voice samples, names. Everyone who's ever pushed back. I know, Maya said. I've got a copy. But we need to get out before they realize it's not a drill. They ran. It wasn't smooth. They encountered two guards on the way out. Maya neutralized one. Natalie, still groggy, managed to trip the other. When they finally reached the car, Leo flung the door open and ran to Natalie, hugging her so tight it knocked the air from her lungs. I thought you were gone, he whispered. Not a chance, kid, she murmured back. As they sped away, Maya looked out the rear window. No sirens followed. No choppers, just silence. Too easy, Langston muttered from the driver's seat. They want us to run, Maya said. They want us out in the open. Natalie leaned back. Then let's give them what they want. Maya turned to her. You serious? Natalie nodded. They think this is over. Let's prove them wrong. And right then, Maya made the decision. Not to hide, not to run, but to expose everything. To burn the whole system down from the inside, whatever it took. The courthouse steps were packed. Camera crews lined the sidewalk. Protesters waved signs, some demanding justice, others demanding silence. Reporters shouted questions as if volume might make them relevant. Above it all, the American flag whipped hard in the wind, its flaps drowned by the steady drumbeat of truth long denied. Maya adjusted her blazer and looked at Leo, who stood beside her in a dark suit that didn't quite fit, but made him look older, stronger. Natalie was just behind them, hands clutching a flash drive like it held the power of the sun. It did. You ready? Maya asked him quietly. He nodded, jaw tight. I've been ready since the day I met you. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was suffocating. Director Wells sat at the defendant's table, flanked by lawyers in $1,000 suits. His expression was calm, maybe even smug. The kind of face used to burying scandals under classified orders and NDAs. But this time, the room didn't belong to him. The judge entered. Cameras were allowed today. Live broadcast. The public had demanded it. Too many whispers, too many denials, too many years. It was time to face the truth in daylight. Maya approached the stand. Her voice was steady, but her fingers trembled as she handed over the drive. This contains classified footage, audio recordings and documents implicating Director Wells and several high-ranking officials in a decades-long cover-up involving illegal detentions, human experimentation, and surveillance of American citizens. Gasps rippled across the gallery. Wells leaned toward his lawyer and hissed something through clenched teeth. The judge opened the file on the court screen. Footage played. Leo in a holding cell. Maya's childhood file. Audio logs of Wells giving direct orders to contain dissidents. It was undeniable. Still, the defense tried to spin it. These individuals are not qualified, the lawyer argued. This footage was stolen, taken out of context. My client is a patriot. Natalie stepped forward. I worked in that agency. I've seen the rooms. The experiments, the targets, he's not a patriot. He's a predator with a badge. Silence fell like a curtain. Then Leo rose. He wasn't supposed to speak. He wasn't on the docket. But he stepped into the aisle anyway, looked the judge in the eye and said, I was just a kid. All I ever wanted was to know where I came from. Why people looked at me like I didn't belong. Now I know it was because someone made that choice for me. Someone decided I was dangerous before I even got a chance. He turned to Wells. You tried to erase me, but you didn't count on her. He pointed at Maya. She saved me. Not because she had to, because it was right. The judge exhaled slowly, then spoke. In light of the overwhelming evidence, this court finds Director Wells guilty on all counts. Further proceedings will determine the full scope of his crimes and appropriate sentencing. Applause erupted. Not polite, not civil. Explosive. Outside, the crowd cheered as news alerts lit up phones across the country. For the first time in decades, the truth had won. The cover-up was unraveling in real time. Investigations were launched. Resignations flooded in. And Maya? She didn't smile. She breathed. For the first time in years, she let herself breathe. That night, on a rooftop above the city, Maya, Leo, and Natalie sat watching the skyline flicker. Drones hovered. Cameras flashed, but for a moment, it felt like peace. So, Natalie asked. What now? We rebuild, Maya said. And we make sure no one buries this again. Leo leaned his head on her shoulder. You think people will listen? Maya looked up at the stars, then down at her phone, where the views on their court testimony had already passed 10 million. They're already listening. She turned to the camera, hers, not the network's. The one she carried in her bag. If you're watching this, thank you for caring. For questioning, for showing up. She paused, voice soft but firm. This wasn't just about me. Or Leo. It's about anyone who's ever been silenced, forgotten. Made to feel invisible. She looked into the lens. If you believe in truth, in justice, in the power of one voice to spark change, then don't stop here. Share this. Talk about it. Push back. Because silence lets them win. Her finger hovered over the stop button, then dropped. If this story moved you, if it made you think, then help us keep telling stories that matter. Stories that don't just entertain, but inspire action. Hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Your voice could be the reason someone finally feels seen. Thank you for being part of this. We'll see you in the next story.